Hello, everybody. Welcome to Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. And of course, I'm your host, BMR. Joining me in Studio B, my buddy Tex. We got a great show. Barry Littleton joins us. We're going to talk some cryptids. We're going to talk some cryptids tonight, I think, or this afternoon, I should say. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube. Subscribe to Texas Front Porch on YouTube. Subscribe to the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Subspace Radio, Spreaker, KPNL Radio, wherever podcasts are found. If you like our content and want to help support what we do around here, the Super Chat is open. The Super Chat is a great way to help us out. Thank you in advance for that. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all social media platforms. Check out our Facebook. Check out our YouTube About pages for all of our scheduled events and activities. And I've got a few scheduled events and activities to go over. As you all know, Mondays is Texas Front Porch. And Tex is on with Brandy. And they're on at 7 Central, 8 and East on Monday. Tuesdays, right back with myself and Krista, 8 Central, 9 and East, Beyond BMR Tuesday night. Wednesday, Texas Front Porch, The Diva Dimension. Great show last night. Go check that out. 9 Central, 10 in the East. Thursdays is right here. Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, and Tex. We're on 1 Eastern on Thursday during the week. Also, Thursday night, don't forget the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. They come on every Thursday night, 8 Central, 9 in the East. And if you need more woo with the booze, they come on Friday night for your viewing or listening pleasure. Friday nights, same time, 8 Central, 9 in the East. Also, Saturday, Tex, Danielle Diva. If you're into true crime, Infamous Minds, it airs Saturday afternoons, 3 o'clock in the East. So please check us out. Please subscribe, hit the alert bell, give us a thumbs up, help out those analytics. Speaking of analytics, I do want to thank everybody about my book. Bigfoot Michigan represents Bigfoot Michigan represents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1 on sale on Amazon. Just type Bigfoot Michigan Rob on your Amazon browser. It'll pull up. The link is pinned here. The link is also in the video. It's on my Facebook. So thank you. And for those of you that have bought the book, Amazon will come calling and they'll ask you to put out a review. Please give a review, whether you liked it, didn't like it, indifferent about it. Again, Chevy Chase once said that movie, it's all ball bearings these days. Well, guess what? It's all analytics these days when helping promote sales of a product or a book. So I appreciate each and every single one of you for that. And also, another little public service announcement. I know you can't, the bottom is, I got that scrolling green down there at the advertisement banner, but June 7th, June 8th, 2024, the Alabama Bigfoot Conference, Anniston Performing Arts Theater. Tickets now on sale, $30 online, $35 at the door. You can see the lineup. Our host is nothing more than the host with the most, Tex Wesson, Bart Nully, Daryl Denton, Blondes and Booze, Jason McLean, Greg Ogles, Mark Rose, and of course, yours truly, BMR will be speaking. So you'll be seeing more and more advertisements as time goes on. So everybody, go check that out down in Alabama. So with that being said, I'm going to bring up Tex. Make sure he's looking like he's looking on his phone here. I'll pull him up, 3, 2, 1. He gave me the go sign. Hey, Tex.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. I've seen a lot of you lately the last several days on all these other shows, and so it's always fun talking to you. You know, we didn't do the show last week because, of course, we had Turkey Day, and I had a miserable time as my Lions got destroyed, but your Cowboys won, so big thumbs up to that.
And they did, and it was, we're having a pretty good year around here in Texas. I mean, our Rangers took the World Series title, and
yeah,
and the Cowboys are looking good, and
yeah.
Oh, but I sure was hoping the Eagles would lose the other day.
Oh, me too. Even despite that we lost, we're still got a good record, 8-3, and with the Cowboys, the Lions, we're all You know, we want for me in Detroit, we want the home field advantage for at least one playoff game.
Right.
And you in Dallas, I'm sure it's the same because you guys are like a night and day team on the road versus
Oh yeah,
home.
yeah. It's crazy.
I mean
And
that.
what's weird is the Rangers, they couldn't lose off the road. They,
Yeah,
I mean, they if they, but if
yeah,
they were at home, they couldn't play worth a damn. But they on the road, man, they knocked it out of the park, literally.
yep,
And it's just the opposite with the Cowboys this year. I don't know what's going on.
yeah. You know, but they're, you know, Jerry Jones. You know, I like him. I hate him. I mean, I do like the Cowboys. If I had to pick like my top 5 teams, Detroit. I've always liked Dallas ever since growing up. You know, you guys, America's team, right? And whether that's true or not, I mean, I don't know. But I've always been intrigued by the Cowboys, and there was always the battle between Barry Sanders, Emmett Smith, who's the best,
Oh
blah blah blah. You know, I personally will go with Barry. You'll probably go with Emmett, but Emmett played longer. If Barry would not have retired at 29, he might have had a few more records, I think, for sure.
Barry was a beast, and that's not the and here we go for a corny segue.
Yeah.
Not the only Barry that's a beast that we know.
No, it's not the only Barry that's the beast that we know. You know, he's been multiple times on the show. Great friend of mine, great friend of Texas, just a generally great guy, very knowledgeable guy. So, without further ado, Barry Littleton joins the show.
Barry the
Greetings,
Beast Littleton.
gentlemen. Greetings.
I like it.
what an interesting intro. You know why? The gentleman is from my hometown.
Yes,
There
he
you
is.
go.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's a living legend here in the state of Michigan, Oklahoma State, and I got to tell you, and I'm not making this up. I saw Barry Sanders play for Oklahoma State Cowboys, right? That's the name of your football team.
Yep.
And man, he was such a fabulous player. And the Detroit Lions had the second pick in the draft, and the Green Bay Packers had the first pick in the draft. And I'm like, I hope the Lions, I hope there's no way Green Bay passes Barry Sanders because he is just going to be phenomenal. The Green Bay Packers, with their first pick, took Tony Mandarich from Michigan State, who ended up being one of the biggest first-round draft pick busts. It's historic. And we got Barry, who is now, of course, a legend and in the Hall of Fame.
The way that man ran was phenomenal. I mean, I don't think he was natural. Because his running style, and I know this is not a football channel, folks, but the thing about Barry Sanders, if you ever get a chance to watch him, just watch a highlight of him, because he ran the way he ran should not have translated into what he could do. He ran with his legs spread out.
Yeah.
But he changed direction on a dime.
Yeah.
And that's what made him so great, not to mention his quickness.
Yeah.
But he could juke like nobody's business.
And then
it was a beautiful thing to watch him run.
Yeah.
It really is. And I'll tell you, the Cowboys have got a boy that reminds me a lot. And BMR, me and you talked about it. This new boy they picked up, hometown boy, they picked up. Man, he runs a lot like Barry. He's little though. He's only 5'5".
Oh well,
he's a running back in the NFL.
Yeah, that's diminutive, 5'5". I mean, Barry, I don't think was no more than 5'10".
Yeah, he was small as far as NFL
players go. Yeah, we got a kid on our team that we drafted from Alabama, Jameer Gibbs. Jameer Gibbs, a pretty good player we drafted from Alabama. I'm looking forward to what he can do for us. He looks pretty exciting. So, but yeah, again, not a football station, but I love sports. Barry, I'm sure you know Barry Sanders, so you have some sport intellect, I imagine. Are you a sports fan before we get the show started, Barry, at all?
I enjoy football. I have a problem with the whole CTE thing. I'm a
Yeah.
survivor of 4 catastrophic traumatic brain injuries, so
Yeah,
I got
you.
issues with. It's all right. It's just it's never been my sport. Even way before that, I'm more of a basketball cat, But
Okay, yeah.
I,
Well,
it's all good. I have appreciation for all athletics. It's cool,
Yeah, I have appreciation, and please, I love the Detroit Pistons. Got to be the worst franchise of all sports. Oh my Lord! And again, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry, everybody listening. I don't want to get off on a tangent. They were so. I don't even. I couldn't. I couldn't tell you. I'm a sports guy. I can name the starting lineups of most of our teams in Detroit. Even the Red Wings are now finally getting their stuff together. But the Pistons, I wouldn't care if they sold the team and moved to Albuquerque. Really. But,
you remember the days of Isaiah?
The bad boys, man. I know everybody thought we were no talented bunch, but I tell you what, we were a championship team for many years. So, which was awesome.
Go ahead.
No, I'm done. Just go ahead, Bear.
No, I will say, interesting enough, you're saying how these athletes run and how quick they are. That's something, they could learn something, though. I know somebody that could smoke them. That's Sasquatch. What comes to mind is,
Yes.
the amount of speed that they exhibit to me is almost beyond biomechanical. And one example would be that M.K. Davis film Whitey's Run, when they really slow down how he's running. First in the cow position. Well, first in the cow position, stands up, does a back stand against the tree. For what reason, you please tell me? I have no idea. And then takes off running past the cows and all the way down through the ravine. And the amount of speed that thing moves is unreal. You would think that it had sped it up. And you hear that over and over again, this great speed that Sasquatch has, whether it be on all fours or on twos, and I think that's probably some of the things we'll be talking about too. So,
it's great. I liked how Tex had a great segue. The legendary Barry Sanders brought up Barry Littleton. You talked about the speed of Sasquatch, which leads into kind of what I wanted to get into today. So very, very good start to the show, fellas. And,
and the thing about it is it's not only their speed, it's they can run like that very, very quietly, which is amazing.
Yes, it is.
Coupling that with the fact that they're leaving indentions and footprints that are almost unreasonable for even something that's hundreds of pounds that they're supposed to be. Some of those indentions are almost showing something, I'll tell you, I don't want to go too geek, all right, but we'll go that way. It is what it is, guys. But there was I enjoyed the comics when I was a kid, especially, but the superhero thing and the villains, always liked it. And there was a book that came out probably about 15 years ago by now, 20 years ago. It was called The Science of Superman. Not my favorite superhero or whatever, but an interesting one nonetheless. And they were scientifically trying to say why he has some of the abilities he has coming from that planet. Being one that would be, the gravity of the planet, the density coming from a different light spectrum. But something that they put in there is they started really analyzing that he could manipulate his gravitons. And that's how he flies, and also why he doesn't, when stepping, step down to the middle of the earth. And when we're looking at actually Sasquatch and their ability to move, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of those accounts that I can't seem to find them now much, that describe them going up these plateaus, like almost unreal, like they're levitating up it to a degree. And also the density of the footprints. These are really alleviating to a species that can somehow control the graviton emissions, and I think that probably ties into their ability to manifest. And if they're manifesting from trees, or what Ron Moore says, that they're actually able to pull quantum wise from the air and things and surrounding environment, it's very interesting. Some things like that. I get real weird with it, because I was looking at yesterday. Too were the age, you're definitely gonna remember this movie, the Swamp Thing movie.
I
Remember Swamp?
Love that movie. Love that
I
movie.
do. Yeah.
You know, if you really look at the what they throw out about the abilities that Swamp Thing was supposed to have, one of them was fission with the green. He was part of the green, and you know, and the abilities he had. When you start really breaking down some of the things that he was supposed to be able to do, it sounds an awful lot like some of these Sasquatch abilities. Now, not all of them. We know some of them are more simply maybe not primates, but there's something more
Well,
normal like us. But you've got the other faction that have these paranormal abilities. We can't deny that. And manifesting, and I think you asked before the show, Rob, where are they when they're not manifested? So I'll shut up.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's just a great segues. We're all on point here. And Joe Monk, even so much like Superman, they can do these human things because they're from another planet. Now, Joe, I got to tell you, it's kind of one of the subjects I want to cover because over the last month, I've been talking with people. Now, I get and I'm not even, this is not going to be a debate about flesh and blood or paranormal, but what I like to get at, because Barry, I know you're into all these different planes, these realms, realities, the universe, planets, and talking about, let's just get weird with it. I mean, are these things coming from other realms and planes? Is that why they have the superhuman speed and strength? Is it because that's why we can't see them? Hey, do they exist on another planet and they teleport down here? A lot of it's far fetched, but you know, people believe in these things. And I, being open minded, Texas open minded, we have our theories and our thoughts, but you know, you can't discredit anything. So sometimes I will sit back and wonder, are they coming from another dimension, from another world? Because what they do, and as you mentioned, both of you guys, the speed, the dexterity, Tex mentioned, run like the wind, but you can't hear them.
Yeah.
Or they can make it where you can't hear them because at the same time, if they want you to hear them, they can turn that switch too, and you can hear them.
You know, I think that really we have to factor in the inner earth scenario. Whether the inner earth we have these chambers in it or whatever the case is, and whether the structure of it is, but we have to factor in the inner earth and that they have some sort of a connection to it. You know, and some other things that I find fascinating, you know, is well, if we're just for a Sasquatch, for example, what is it with the spider crawl? The hell is that? I mean, some of the stuff that they're doing, you know what I mean? And as far as dimension wise, so when they're unmanifested, if they're manifested beings, it's a question of what are they like when they're unmanifested? Are they in a humanoid form in another dimension, a humanoid form in another density, another vibration, another frequency, or are they pure energy? And then they don't manifest until they get around things like humanity. You know, and this takes us into something else about some of these cryptids. When really dealing with Earth, as they want to call her, Mother Gaia, as an organism, truly, and you have these beings, these organisms that have consciously imprinted upon the planet, and you get these not just phantasmagorical type of manifestations, poltergeists, but you get these things that the Earth produces too, that are, you know, that are sometimes only produced when it's in the energy field, the morphogenic field of humanity. Am I making sense? You know,
You're making a lot of sense.
He
And
always makes sense to me, Barry.
well, we had a conversation last night on the show about orbs, and somebody brought up, what is it possible that these things, you know, the Sasquatch and even the Dogman, because you know, I don't know if you know, Barry, I've been struggling for a while with the whole Dogman werewolf situation. You know, what are they? But I don't want to get into that right now. But what, like you said, what if they're just pure energy? What if they can manifest from these? What if they are these orbs? I've heard a lot of people talk about that's how they travel. That's how they manifest. You know, that's why they can do these things that we can't explain. And I don't know if I'm ready to take that blue pill yet, but it's I'm seeing more and more and more in the field that I just cannot explain, but I don't want to take the easy way out and go, okay, that's what this is, and write it off because thank you, Audie, Sue.
Thank you, Sue.
I think there's something more that we're dealing with, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell it is.
Sometimes what I like to do is I go and this is going to go. Some people are probably going to get carrots thrown at me. By the way, hello to the audience. I saw some people saying hello when I glanced over there. Hello to everybody. Very kind. And nobody throws apples at me. Thank you. But something concerning like their ability to truly manifest around people and through people. I think it kind of takes it to another level in terms of gosh, I'm not trying to put this. Let's say, for example, the studies of something, the Toltecs, and somebody that introduced that was Carlos Castaneda, seemed to introduce that to the mainstream. And a lot of his work deals with dream work in terms of ability to actually have your cognitive abilities like it is right now in this physical body and being able to transfer that to the energy / astral / energy body. And a lot of times when he was actually dealing with his teachers, they were showing up with their eyes shining, but the truth is they were in energy form. But since he couldn't see and cognitive dissonance, he's still seeing them as people. And then they start set of energy balls or whatever, and then they start jumping around doing things that are levitating, and he'd lose control of his bowels. He couldn't take seeing these people doing this, but he didn't understand what he was actually seeing. So that takes us into the whole premises of this dream type of dream manifestation through the dream body, and they're able to do this transfer. And you got to keep keeping it real. These Sasquatch go way, way back to the point of where we were still a type 1 civilization. And for those of them that are not just strictly these animal things, the person part of the DNA we know about, the human part that comes about, is that how they're actually manifesting? I did a video, I think some people laughed at me, some of it understood. I asked the question, are Sasquatch, are they dreamers? And I say that based on the fact that sometimes, I'm sure you've read reports of people coming up on them crashed out. And as aware as they are, crashing out in the human's barn, what? That doesn't make any sense when you're that aware. But the truth is, they're down there, and when you're seeing them they're unmanifested, they're in the dream body. And they've switched their cognitive abilities, and we're seeing them. That's when they're more impervious to these bullets and exhibiting these things that seem more paranormal. The truth is they're still physical creatures, but they're able to use the dream body. And where did all that come from? When you start going as far back as the Toltecs. That's all the way tying up to the peace pipe and all these things that go all the way back. That might involve them. We can't discount these things. And it's such a simple facade to say they're all just animals. But we know there's something else going on, at least with a portion of them anyway. So, and let's just bridge this, as you said, I like that word, Rob. Let's bridge this. These entities that just seem to jump into our field of awareness and then jump away.
Mm-hmm.
Something to trigger our consciousness. And there's been a bunch of them. Jumping Jack. Jumping Jack, I believe it is the name of it. The entity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
does it go from house to house, kind of like kind of like a goblin or something, or no?
Yeah. Him. I mean, you've got tons of even the Mothman. These the ones I keep laughing at this term, Bat, Squatch, and all the rest of them. But these beings, these entities, even Chupacabra, a lot of them, they jump in a person's field of awareness, then they jump away. I think there's a lot to be said about that. You know what I mean? And as far as us being beings, spirits of perception, and how we really live in a realm of perception and strictly perceiving things. When you deal with real dream practices and get through these gates of dreaming and all these things, the ultimate gate is to realize that you're really standing in the middle of an electron impulse and phantasmagorical images. Once you do away with that, what other energy generating entities, beings are in your field of awareness?
Okay.
They use those illusions. They use those phantasmagorical images when communicating with us in the dreamscape a lot.
I was just thinking too, you know, how, okay, this is such a fascinating topic about the jumping. You know, let's just Sasquatch, we'll just keep it with that just for the moment. How they can jump from here to there, from and anywhere. They can appear, disappear. You can hear them, you can't hear them. And they've got all this energy. You know, you can always refer back to Ron Moorhead to quantum theory, right? But here's the thing, too. They are advanced, and that's why, you know, I think there's a paranormal element. Us as human beings, there are human beings that can jump, that study, and they, you know, you hear about people that can do astral project. You know, you hear about people that can read minds. They have ESP. You know what Jessica Jones does with her
Remote viewing.
remote viewing. You know, all these people that, you know, have premonitions, but they're really accurate. As human beings, people can do these things, but not on the level, because we can't go from plane to plane, realm to realm, right? Like I think these entities, and I sometimes refer to cryptids as an entity. You know, part of me wants to call them a flesh and blood, but they got that extra sense. I don't know what the term would be, because I feel I don't like always saying paranormal, supernatural, because to me that's more ghost like stuff. So, and even the woo. So there's really not for me it's a concrete terminology. That's why the when talking about these subjects is it's just so fascinating, because they could do things that man can't do.
Hmm. You know, but when you really start delving into it, you know, some things like there are techniques for invisibility. You know, there's been books written on that actually, all the way from what you have Shadow League and ninja types doing that, how invisibility through the eye, which is learning how the eye works. That's half of it. The other is the ability to try to collect an electron cloud around you, this mist that actually bends light, you know. And when you start looking at that, and if you have that premise consciously, and then you have entities that have the translucent hair that some of them seem to have. Who was that analyzed all that hair, that saw that? And some of them even had what that looked like chlorophyll in it.
I
You
think
know,
we
and you
talked
start
about
dealing.
this before, yeah.
Was that Scott Carpenter? Who? No, what's the guy's name that did that?
Mm,
I mean, it's a really good science deal that they did, but
um, the
they had
name
a lot of
slips
hair
me
too.
too. Well, we had him on before too. Carter Bouchard has brought that up, but he didn't originate that. It came from like a Bender Nagel, but I know he was more in the Aper camp. It was one of those older gentlemen, I do believe, that came up with that theory.
I want to say it's the same guy that was saying that they had autistic relations, that they seemed that a lot of things that Sasquatch did was very autistic like. What was his name? It's that guy. Anyway, sorry, here over there. But what I saw from those from that whole deal with the translucent hair, and it makes it much easier. And something else I'll throw in there is, how is it? You know, I've heard so much. This is one of the first things I started hearing, and you don't hear it all the time. Is about them standing still so long, not just that they appear to be trees, but laying on the ground, like waiting to spy on people for like maybe a whole day
Mhm.
without moving.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? The one that was watching me, I don't know how long it had been sitting there, standing there. You know what I mean? And it was somehow cloaked. You could see this. This stuff is real. It's not crap. You know, and like I said, we mentioned Jessica earlier, Jessica Jones. You know, some of her remote targets viewing, the type that is commonly referred to as type twos, the more chimpanzee type. Every time she's dealt with them or seen them, they don't seem to have really the paranormal abilities. They seem more like we hear territorial, but more like just very primitive people to a degree, but not the paranormal aspect.
Well,
So
see,
you know,
and that begs the question: are they the same thing? Are the ones that you know that are out there with these paranormal abilities, and I don't know what else to call it,
mhm.
otherworldly? I don't know. I mean, it's just hard to put a label on it.
Mhm.
But what, you know, are those different, completely different critters than the ones that, like, you know, you and Jessica are talking about, that are more of the physical, in the physical world, and don't have these paranormal abilities? Is it just two totally different things, and we're just putting it all in a Sasquatch box?
I when saying that, I think that it takes us to something else too, which is something that's been going on for a very long time, which is like these underground and these genetic laboratories. And that's not something that's just come this century, this in the last 40, 50 years. This has been going on for obviously, thousands and thousands of years, millions. Yeah. And right now, all that's happened is this is transformed into what we could call cabal type of things and stuff like that. But these laboratories and places where these chimeras and these different these cryptids are being made, and the reason why they're released in one area and then all of a sudden they disappear, and for example, something kind of proved this was when the chupacabra thing, like I gave that to our friend Jessica as a blind target, no idea what she's looking at. Okay. And the reason why I specifically did it is because I did a video when I met John Vivinco in 2019, the other remote viewer. He had remote view with his team Chupacabra to see if it was real or not. And they picked up that it was, and they started talking about, he started talking about a laboratory that got hit by a hurricane, and the Chupacabras escaped. And that's why some of them were being seen at that time, yada, yada. And I found that just fascinating. He also described it as being a marsupial. His whole team saw that when the child actually emerges from the pouch, no longer dependent on the mother hunts it down and eats it. So they were really tripped out by this chupacabra thing. Right. So I gave this to Jessica as a blind target. I just wanted to see, what she got, how much of it correlated with what John had said. And, she picked up on a storm, some type of a storm. She picked up on a bunch of stuff. She kept coming up. She said, "What? You had me looking at dinosaurs." She kept thinking it was a dinosaur or some type of dinosaur type of genetics. I found that interesting. But the thing is this, her finding the hurricane thing too, the storm, and hitting on that made me go back and look at when really Chupacabra, that lady that really started it, mentioned this. It was 1994 that wave happened. So I looked at Puerto Rico, and actually in 94, Puerto Rico was hit by a hurricane called Hurricane Marilyn. So that made me look up Puerto Rico, and anybody can do this, Puerto Rico and genetic laboratories. All sorts of stuff comes up. Then start tracing those back. How many of these companies go back to 94? You can do it. There's a few of them. Just saying, sometimes, that's in the, in plain sight is often overlooked.
Well, it's the remote viewing thing is always fascinated me, and I don't know enough about it to even hardly have a conversation. I do know that Jessica remote viewed an incident that involved me personally, and it was a missing time deal, and there's no way she could have known the stuff that she figured that she saw. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then it was confirmed by months later by Danielle Diva. She didn't even know me. We were just having a conversation. She picked up on something psychically, and I'm like, and this is blowing my mind, because I didn't know how much weight I put into all this stuff. Now I ain't got no choice. The stuff's real. What's cool about the remote viewing text is that it's a system of collecting data, which makes it like, because me as a psychic, as a seer, I can see, but what they're doing is collecting data that puts a little more validity to it in a lot of ways, and it's very fascinating, and then we start looking at this and seeing how much it works. Then you start taking that to type 1, type 2 civilizations. How many of them are using this as communication as a way of really interneting things? It's real. It gets real sticky in there all around.
In Texas, gosh, this is how should I say? Well, with Tex, yes, because Tex, I remember the show. I remember talking with Tex for months and how he was a different guy for a while because he just couldn't understand this or believe what he was hearing. Much like, and and I know Tex isn't a big into like the tele, telepathy or mind speaking things like that, but I got to tell you, there's some credence. There are people that can do it. I was saying like Tex, I was doing a show. I had Robin McRae on. I respect Robin McRae, one of the few that I respect when it comes to this mind speak subject, right? And everyone's heard my Bigfoot story. Everybody and their mother. I tell it. People like hearing it. I tell it. And I always tell it the same. So a person, yeah, that heard my story enough times could, contrive some things and make me think otherwise about certain things when it comes to maybe telepathy or maybe the mind speak. She was on his show last year, and I never ever in my life told anybody about the red barn that there was at this cross on this lake where I saw the Sasquatch or whatever I saw, right? We're doing a show and she says she was in communication with my Sasquatch. I'm like, you know, okay, it's a show and I'm going to hear what she has to say. And I never spoke with this is the second time I spoke with her, but I never told again about the red barn. And she said on the show, and I almost fell out of my chair. In fact, I had to like put a thing up, a blocker up to block my face because I was like, wow. She said, Rob, the Sasquatch, and he had a name, Delano. He said he meant you no harm. He actually
Like,
came
like,
to circle.
that's a party bar. That's a party
Yeah,
place.
it's a
Whatever.
party play.
Delano
Well,
sect. Sorry,
well,
I'm just kidding. Teasing.
yeah, well, no, I get you, Barry. I get you. There's a
I'm
Delano's
listening.
right up the road. It's a nice slop and dine, right? This Delano Sasquatch came from around the Red Barn. I've never told that to my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister. It's not in my video. You'll never, ever, ever hear me say that. She mentions the Red Barn. That's in the area he came from around, went down to the shoreline. And Barry and Tex and everyone listening, there was a Red Barn. But I felt that was insignificant for the story. It was just a dilapidated Red Barn. And I got to tell you something. That I tell you, I went in a different realm that day myself inside my mind. That people know that people can pick these things out. Now, did she talk to Delano? I don't know, but she knew about the Red Barn. That's for a fact.
I did an interview with her, and gosh, who was it? It was just a show with her. She picked up a few things that were interesting, so it's not for anyone to discredit because we don't know where the mind speaks begins and ends. Like, I'd gotten that from what we call telepathy. I've got telethought from what we would call extraterrestrials, interdimensionals. But when I was had that thing that happened with what I think was Sasquatch, very strong telepathy. And I mentioned on here before that no, I don't know what I got was mind speak specifically from Sasquatch. I don't know what it was, but it was doing a heck of an imitation. And why I have no idea. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, this individual, this force, was a much stronger telepath than I. So you know what I mean? And once it initiated the telethought, when I say telepathy, it's really telethought. It's coming with pictures, emotions, and I started picking up words. A lot of times you do telepathy, there's not words with it. English? The hell? Heck? Excuse me? English? Those things like that really blew me away. And what I mentioned before, and one of the things that's throwing in my mind is this very tall Sasquatch doing a backflip and saying, I don't have a limp. I didn't even know what that meant. A limp? And I start finding out later that some of them that get really tall, maybe towards death, start developing a limp. And then later I see this M.K. Davis film of this white Sasquatch doing a backflip against a tree. Well, so I mean, the things that they do, I don't get it, but it is what it is. I don't make the rules. I just observe them, but gosh, so in the case like that, I think we're too quick to discredit the telepathy and the mind speak thing, because in reality, it's a capability that humans have, but due to the fact that I think it would make one reason they don't want it is because we don't have to be much more honest with each other, and they can't have that down here.
Well, of course, no. Honesty is thrown out the window, right? I mean, that's a given.
It's a gimmick. I like that.
Y-
You know,
y-
so can I just take it up a notch?
Take it up a notch, Barry. That's why you're on the show, man.
Okay,
Bill, take
something
it
else
up
just
too, Barry.
throw in there, because we talked a little about the mystical thing, but also some of the things that I think actually have validation as actually in the animal kingdom. Like some things we hear about, like per se the Loch Ness monster, and some of these things that are always said to be plesiosaur-like. I think really that they're giant eels. And I started hearing when I was in Washington speaking, like the first time, this guy that was telling me about K-moss, a thing they call K-moss. And he said that it was this some type of a giant eel that would come up during the salmon, when they do the salmon run or whatever, the salmon is doing its run. They come up and they get in the nets. They eat through the nets. And he was saying in the back of these canneries in the Quinault tribe in the Alaska Olympia Peninsula. That's where it was, he said. He said there are canneries there. In the back of the canneries are nets that are all eating up these huge holes in them. He said because these K-moss come in and get the salmon and come out, and they can't catch them. They'll eat through and chew through anything quick. And that was, I found that really fascinating when you start hearing stuff like that. And that's not something that's per se a cryptid, but it's something that we're unaware of. I know there was a lot of argument about organism 46B, but in reality, that giant squid, but a squid type entity, but in reality, that's been reported a lot more than just Lake Baikal. Start studying those things. The deep sea rig divers say they encountered things similar to that, or going back as far as the Kraken. So some of this are natural, I think, animal kingdom things. And how many of these things that are natural have imprint up on the earth, like we just talked about earlier, that they manifest, especially around the morphogenic field of humanity. I mean, so you got both things, I think, also, but tying that together. But definitely, I think, anyway, I think the K-moss is a good example of that. And, eventually, I'm sure one could get caught eventually or seen or something. But it seemed to be awful common. And this guy told me about that when I started looking into it. I started finding a lot of stuff about K-moss, like David Pauletti's was talking about it. The Hoopa tribe were talking about them. So it's got to be something there,
Well, and it's like, I think, all these lores or legends are somehow, somewhere, they have some
Fact behind them.
fact that I mean, it may not be
Came from
100%
somewhere.
fact, but
Right.
they're based in it anyway.
We always have this discussion about, werewolves, the lore, the myth, and there are people that, hey, they are shapeshifters and they exist, right? Again, vampires, the lore, it doesn't even have to be whatever the common werewolf or vampire. Okay. It could be anything. There's millions of stories about myths, legends, and lores from throughout the world that have some basis in reality, because these people, unless you were sitting around pubs way back in the 1800s making stories up, but they took on life for the last several centuries. I find that there's something behind these.
Yeah, yeah. And it, in dealing with what we're doing now, genetic research wise, especially the stuff that's in the black market we don't know about, all right?
Yeah.
And going back, these are things, everything's a cycle. This has been done before. And you've got examples of it, whether you go back to Greek mythology or even further back than that. You've got things like this, what was it, the Minotaur? The Minotaur was in some type of a labyrinth. Well, that sounds like a labyrinth. What? I mean, it's, what I'm saying? And the Pan, these other creatures, the Centaurs, they're all these creatures that are just prime for abominations that are made in these underground facilities. And that's been going on for a long time. And it's just now continuing now. We just call the word government and put that word on it. And, black cabal, but it's the same thing.
Right.
We're dealing with satanic forces that do genetic breeding of all sorts of weird stuff. you know, and we could say you tie that into some people tie that into military and other things, but no matter what, it's dark. Straight up, it's dark.
So how do we know? And he was talking about, Rob was talking about monkey wrenches earlier. We're going to throw monkey wrenches in this thing. Well, here's my first one. How do we know that these creatures aren't linked to that dark stuff too?
Which ones do you mean, Tex?
Well, like when we're talking about the chimera, but how do we know that that's not what we're seeing with the Sasquatch that we're talking about today?
I've got a theory on that. Okay, when looking at this and examining this, you've got the Gugwe and the face eater types, right? And when I first started hearing about them, they seemed to be solitary most of the time, right? And then I started hearing about, like, specifically the place in Paris that has the habituation, that where a lot of those filmed, I think MK Davis came from, a lot of them. That I think it's there that you start having people that found out the one that they were doing it tried to hoax them, but then in that area you started having a different type of Sasquatch coming in that they're describing as monsters. And I started hearing about that in Oklahoma too, and they're pushing out the ones that were the patty type. Mm-hmm. And they're being pushed out by these ones that see more. And, when I start hearing things, I got so interested in that. I started like really going hard on Bigfoot Project and the ladies that are reading like all those accounts. And you start hearing several times from those and other ones telepathically, people being warned by Sasquatch saying, be careful of the ones of us that have red eyes. They're not good and they'll kill you. And that takes us in, we start seeing the red eye thing. Okay, that's self-illuminating. And we're not talking about eye shine. We're talking about self-illumination, self-illuminating eyes and red. And I'm sorry, but to me, that sounds like a cyborg, man. That's not much more than, you remember Schwarzenegger was in the first Terminator, he was dropping his eye, and before he's the red eye, man. I mean, it's just things like that. And we're still dealing with these laboratories. I think the Gugwe was introduced to discredit any positive things with Sasquatch and also to make them even more hunted. And that whole deal, I think that's why that fearsome species was introduced. I honestly do. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I mean, it's food for thought, if nothing else.
Well, introduced as in made up, created, or
what's that now?
When you say the Gugwe was introduced,
I think
so. You believe it's an entity? You believe it's something, right?
I think it's an abomination they've introduced to discredit the regular Sasquatch.
When we talk about they, who do you think we're talking about?
We can call it whatever you want. I mean, I would say evil. Satan is evil, but it's the people that are running things on this planet, and they always have. They're destroying our biosphere. They don't care. They're destroying species, destroying the planet. And, more than that, they're also targeting people with these direct energy weapons. That stuff is real. The acoustic spotlight and all that stuff. The first thing and when you have technology like that, you don't have a open volunteer control group. You're doing it on the population. The first one they targeted is the homeless, then the prison populations, and then those people that incarnate here that are psychic mediums, contactees. They start targeting these people. You know what I mean? Hitting them with this type of brain interface. Anybody get on YouTube right now and type in hacking the brain and look at what those cats from Duke University are saying. And if they're even talking about that, that's way ahead of that. And that's the first way to hijack the whole first contact scenario thing. Fake alien invasion, everybody super soldiers. You have so many people that do that, but and that stuff if they're connected to a brain interface thing and subjected to a hive mind with like some type of virtual reality, seriously, almost synthetic abilities, in that way, they're going to think it's completely real. But all the positive things that are coming in are getting murked out by that. We really have to be aware of that. And I say that for reasons like Ray Hernandez, that does free Foundation Research Extraterrestrial Encounter, changed it to CCRI contact modalities. They did a 4-phase survey on like 4,000 or 5,000 contactees all over the world. And when you start looking at the pies that they have, the charts, they're amazingly skewed towards positive contact. And why? It can't be that way. All the stuff we hear in the media, it all should be negative. You know, that's what we hear. You know, even, for example, and I want to think, I'm not sticking up for reptilians, all right? But that part of the survey I had to skip. I've had contact my whole life, guys, but I've never seen a reptilian, okay? And the fact that I've not seen a 10-foot bipedal crocodile on some ship where I'm getting sick, it's cool with me, man, you know? But I had to skip that part of the survey. But there were about 1,000 people that did answer it.
Yeah.
And it was skewed. The part of negative was very minuscule compared to the positive, but then the unknown was the biggest part of the chart. And when I asked later in the chart, I said, Ray, why? Because you have to fill something out. He said, Barry, a lot of the people said quite similar things. They said that they were traumatized by the way the creature looked physically. Wow. It was traumatizing, but they never actually did anything to them. If anything, they departed some knowledge, but there were no experiments. There was no enslaving, nothing. It was just the way they looked was frightening. And you know that we don't hear about that. I'm not like pro reptilian. I'm not saying that, but it's just things that just need to be evaluated.
I don't think you're a pro reptilian.
Yeah.
We'll put a pin in that. We'll continue that though. Coming up, we got to take our 5-minute break, and I gotta say, Danny Stanton, he's got a great memory because we're talking about they. Jason and I, back when Jason did a night show on Wednesdays, we had a whole series on they, all the multi-oligarchies of all these trillionaires, money beyond imagine, that pull the strings in the country, but set up these programs for maybe these gugwe or to control everything, right? At their hands. There are people that we have never heard of in our lives that can control everything and anything, including creation of these realms, these realities with a lot of these creatures and evil out in the world. With that being said, we got to take our 5-minute break. Don't anyone go anywhere unless you want to get something to drink. And we'll be back with Barry Littleton. Great show as always with Barry. Be back in 5.
got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Brunch with Bigfoot Mystery Rob. We got a great guest, Barry Littleton. Thanks for everybody for coming on in. I got to give a special shout out for a few people. Aussie Sue for your amazing super sticker. TF for your amazing super sticker. Be Kind, thank you. Be Kind gifted 5 Bigfoot Mystery Rob memberships. We have 5 new pirates. BMR Pirates. Arr. If you want to become a BMR pirate, go ahead and join up. Thank you, Be Kind, for that. Again, TF, thank you for Aussie Suits. Great way to help support what we all do around here, and your donations are always appreciated. Thank you ever so much. Don't forget, we've got Texas Front Porch, 7 Central, 8 in the East on Monday. Tuesdays is Beyond BMR, 8 Central, 9 in the East. Wednesday, the Diva Dimension, 9 Central, 10 in the East. Thursday, right back here, Brunch with Bigfoot, Mystery Rob and Tex, 12 Central, 1 in the East. Thursday night is the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Check them out, 8 Central, 9 in the East. Fridays, again, if you need more woo mixed in with the booze, the Blondes and the Booze, that is, 8 Central, 9 in the East, Friday. Check them out. Saturday, Texas Front Porch. Subscribe. Infamous Minds, True Crime. Fantastic show with him and Miss Diva. Also, I've got to make mention, thank you to everybody who's bought my book. Bigfoot Mystery Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1, available on Amazon. The link is pinned in the chat. The link is on my YouTube page, or simply go to your Amazon browser, type in BMR, Bigfoot Mystery Rob, it will pull up. And those of you that bought it, those of you that plan on buying it, thank you in advance. Leave a review, because Amazon will ask what you thought about the book. Be honest, do what you want to do. It helps increase sales of the book. It pushes it out, just like on YouTube. When you leave comments, when you give the thumbs up, it's all algorithms these days. It's all algorithms. So thank you in advance for everybody. I appreciate each and every one of you for coming on in. Also, we're starting the marketing for this June 7th, June 8th, June 7th, the meet and greet. The 8th is the conference, 2024 Alabama Bigfoot Conference. The speaker lineup, Tex Wesson. He's our host. Barton Nunley, Daryl Denton, the Blondes, the Booze, Jason McLean, Greg Ogles, Martin Groves, and of course, yours truly, BMR. All will be speaking at the Anderson Performing Arts Center. That's again June 7th through the 8th. Tickets $30 online, $35 at the door. Hope to see you all down there. It's a fantastic show. Anita Collier putting that together. And of course, they're getting assistance from us porch people, us porchers, if you will. So thank you, your support for that, and your show up in attendance at that would be awesome. We got a great show with Barry. I'm gonna bring up Barry's still back. I'm gonna bring up my man Tex. Hey, Texie.
Hey, you got a lot of new porch pirates.
Yeah, I got 5 more. Thank you, be kind. Got some porch pirates. I said porch pirates. They're BMR pirates. Yeah, what you get with that is you get my pretty little face and bandana next to your name. And that's all you get, really. But thanks for the support. Thank you, be kind. And again, thanks to TF for your contribution earlier, and Aussie Sue. We do appreciate it. It does go a long way to help what we do. We love everybody. We love everybody in chat. We love everybody that, listens later and throughout the week, and we really appreciate that.
I'll tell you what, so many people, not with just your channel, but the blind channel and
everybody,
they've been so supportive. We've got the best audience out there.
Yeah, we do. Across the board, we do.
And I don't want to call them an audience. I mean, it's like
really family.
Yeah, it's like an extended family. It really is.
It's
crazy.
And you can say this, and everybody listening, when Tex says this, when I say this, we just don't make it up to keep you coming back and watching, because we've had the same. If you look at Texas Front Porch, you look at Bigfoot Rob, you look at the Blondes, and of course, now we're helping out Letitia and Barton on his channel. He's got a great show too. A lot of everybody's all coming together and just in support, and we appreciate it. We're no nonsense, It's the no troll zone. We don't get that. Everybody just has a good time. They hang out, and I know a lot of people out in chat and are all friends. They enjoy the camaraderie, and that's what we try to do for everybody: is put on an entertaining show. Also, try to give the facts that we deem to be facts, although nothing is really factual when it comes to these phenomenon we talk about. But it is really appreciated, and I love you all.
I think Barry said it great a while ago. Is food for thought, if nothing else.
Food, and I love that.
If we can't. And I harp on this all the time. I'm sorry, folks. I really am. But if we can't sit down and have conversation, because I don't agree with everything Barry says. Barry don't agree with everything I say. Help Rob done.
Yeah, well, no, of course not.
Rob believes in everything.
I always say I believe in anything and everything.
Well, you know what P.T. Barnum said, so that's why I'm always cautious about everything.
Well, you have to have that skeptical criticism, but you have to have the open mind. Certainly everything that we hear is not true. We get that, and it happens. But what is the truth, really? What is evidence, really? Well, we don't know, right? I mean, we can only do what we do. Tex being a researcher. Barry, you've had so many experiences. You've had life experiences. I mean, with your in everything, afterlife experiences, which you've talked about ad nauseum many times, and I know it's deep in your heart. It's always real thought out when you tell about that, which I always appreciate. And you, Barry, for this is why I like having you on every couple months, because you're first of all, you are knowledgeable. You've had life experiences, and you don't pull no punches. You tell it how it is. It's food for thought. You say, hey, look, I don't know if this is actual. I don't know if it's factual. But, the food for thought things I even use now, because, Barry, you say it so much that it's like it's integrated into my brain now. And I like the food. I do like the food for thought verbiage, if you will. And I appreciate every time you come on, man.
I appreciate that. I was before we came back on, I was looking through the comments. I want to really give credit. A lot of intelligent people in your audience, man. It's great. There was somebody that went by in their Sweet Pea 33 or something like that. And they said something about the targeting of people who are being targeted when they're born by Satanists, satanic, and the method and stuff like that. So something I want to add to that, I agree 100%. And I did a video, if you go to my channel, Barry Littleton, on YouTube. No cool names or anything. I need a cool pen.
Well, I think Barry Littleton is kind of a cool name. I love the name Barry. Yeah, Barry Sanders, man. You're a legend, just like Barry Sanders.
Not again. I'm just kidding. But no.
Lily Pond has been dropping your link as well. Thanks, Lily.
Hey, thank you, Lily. I appreciate that. But on that channel, like not too long ago, I released a video. If you just scroll down a little bit, it's called the SSP and Mind Control. And during that, I talk about this type of a net that we encounter before we incarnate on Earth. That actually, I think, is how they tag us, and actually, it aids in the wiping of our soul life memories when we incarnate here. Another reason why we incarnate here and can't remember Jack, man. You know, it's only a partial agreement, but I think you've got a lot of dark forces trying to help that agreement. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, just check that out. I agree with what they're saying, though. They're right on deal with that. And what that does is how they tag us before we're even born here. I think as we're coming in, you know, it's pretty much a trip. But there's evidence of that, and that's where we're at right here. This is almost a very hellish place. I'm sorry, it is. It's very hard to survive here. It's dangerous as heck here.
It's dangerous, and here's the thing. You know, we just ended the last segment, and we mentioned you're talking about they, and I mentioned back in the day when Jason McLean did questions. Me and Jason were doing it. Then we brought on Donnie, and then I took a break, and then now Jason does his other. You know, he makes his appearances here and there and writing books now. You know, here's the thing. We talk about they, and this I need to get your opinion because I don't know if you've been on a show. We never had you on that show. But when we talked about they, we talked about these trillionaires, these people that are pulling the punches. Now, again, this is going to be kind of conspiracy theory. You know, we have all heard about New World Order, how we don't even control the world. You know, I believe that they want to manipulate the population, and they're not I'm not talking about the president of any country, our country. I'm talking about people with supreme power and money that none of us have heard about. I believe a lot of these people have so much money and they just want to be in their own little planet. They want to control our planet. And I think they're responsible for a lot of these 411. I think they're responsible for creation of these creatures that roam our forests. And I'm not even talking Bigfoot. I'm not talking Dogman. There's things I believe in this universe, Barry, that are put here for evil intentions that we haven't even encountered yet. You know, there's 1.5 billion acres or miles, or whatever, I forget the semantics, of uncharted territory in North America alone that man has not stepped foot in. And the ocean, Barry, is 20 times that. And I think there are people that are pushing buttons to control a lot of what happens in the world today. You know, I'm not even talking about CERN. I'm talking beyond that. So you're a smart guy. You got a lot of thoughtful insights. Am I off base when I suggest or think about these weird theories? Because I think that there's something going on, man.
Not at all. I mean, you can take it and it occurs in like layers too, you know, starting with time manipulation. You've got very real time manipulation going on this planet. And it occurs during the times of high solar activity. You know, and just for an example of that, like I've mentioned this before, an example of this, when 9/11 happened, how many people remember that Manhattan was in the middle of a hurricane? Hurricane Aaron. And for some reason, the day of 9/11, it was just clear. And it was air traffic that day. But you looked at it and some people try to argue me. I said, look up NOAA. They'll tell you. It's right on there. And somebody said, I live over in that way and I just can't seem to remember that. Why is that? You know what I mean? We have these little time edits that happen. And certain technologies that are slightly transparent to the public, like the superluminal propagation of information, which is sending data backwards through time is what that means. And if you're capable of doing that, you've got institutions that are showing you that somewhat openly. But you take that to the private sector, you know, is that people trying to Morse code back to Hitler? Hey, do this. You know, I mean, it's really the stuff we need to look at, and the way that we're having the manipulation of timelines and itself. Like, for example, the contact scenario phenomenon itself is trying to be hijacked. You know, I just mentioned Ray Hernandez and all that big CCRI research thing that they did. And, you know, someone tried to buy that off him. Try to get it hard. He talks about that. You know, I mean, people would be aware of that because they're trying to change the entire narrative. They don't want nobody to know. Well, gosh, out of 100 people, 85 had positive encounter and only 15 had negative stuff. Instead, they're making this to where, oh, it's 100% everybody has negative. You know, and when dealing with really what we could call the divine field, and I've mentioned, I don't know on this show, but I mentioned on other shows what really black holes are in the universe. Black holes are really called MACOs, magnetically eternally collapsing objects, and they're really the hard drive of the universe. So what you have is when something goes into the black hole, it creates a perfect copy on the surface called the quantum hologram. And that goes into what the MACO is actually inside the black hole. And that's actually the mechanism that holds the memory. Okay. And so when you start seeing the accretion disk that goes around the MACO is the same of actually the universe itself is wrapping around the MACO. So in the center, you have that is like the universe at present, all the way to the outward part of the accretion disk, which would be the beginning of the universe. So you will have civilizations that no longer exist, okay, but they still exist within this MACO. Now, dealing with the MACOs, just probably more supposed to be talking about, but just real quick. They operate through what's called conscious waves. The quantum physicists are calling it conscious waves. And they occur two types of ways, spherical and helical, okay? And in our bodies, we have something called microtubules. In this, that's relegated to the brain, microtubules of the brain, okay, which are also spherical. So they are actually able to access conscious waves. The MACOs operate on conscious waves. You see where I'm going with this? So the way is that we can actually access this is through brain waves. And if you have a civilization that no longer exists, but it's still around this MACO, okay, it can be accessed through the divine field and our brain waves. And when dealing with getting to a MACO, it'd be through the speed of thought, which I'm not going to go into that, but that's, you know, to a degree that I've had, like somebody like Rudy Shields saying that they thought it was about 100,000 times the speed of light. I'm not going to go into experiment he quoted because I can't tell you what it is, but it was beyond me. All right. But it had something to do with the proton around the nucleus and the electron around the proton, and something they did something to speed it to something. Anyway, dealing with that is how you would actually access this black hole. And what I just described to you is what we hear so easily people calling, oh, the Akashic Records. And most don't know what that is outside of Edgar Cayce saying it's the records of space and time. But I just told you what they are. It's these MACOs, these black holes. And so when you start dealing with, you know, with ships that go through there, what are called type 3, type 4 civilizations that are using the fabric of space and the fabric of these MACOs as a power source, whole nother thing going on. Anyway, let's go back to cryptids, man. There's always going to be throwing and say, that guy's talking about some stuff we don't want to hear about.
No. Well, people, first of all, you never have to, you can, Barry, when you're on this show, anything does go. People love you. I mean, you just blew me away with that a little bit there, and I'm just trying to process that. But so, do you think all these MACOs are created?
Yeah, well, the universe, yeah, they're created, and if you look at what they're saying actually that the universe existed before the MACOs. They were made afterwards. They were created. So yeah, slightly after. I don't know how far after into creation, but they came secondary to creation. And it's another way, you know, another way of actually, and you've got like, you know, what's inside the MACO and what's on the other side. And the fact, you know, it's a whole interesting thing going on. Because when I was a kid, there was a movie called The Black Hole. And what that was is like everything, yeah, cool robots on that one too, man. But everything got sucked in and crushed by the black hole, and that's the gravitational. And that's what we assumed is what they really were, but they couldn't tell you what was on the other side except a white hole. And what we're finding out now, and that's why I dealt with this guy, Rudy Shield, that was the ex-professor of Harvard, and did a lot of work with the observatories. He's the one that actually put the MACO data together and everything and called him that. So I got to interact with him. He took an interest in some of my experiences. And it's cool because I always want to interact with real scientific minds. And he's not a contactee like me. He's strictly scientist. So he was coming from that aspect. But I've been on board a craft that actually had Makos on it. And they made me very sick, and they were opening and closing all around me. And he took interest in that amongst other things. So, you know.
So
damn, this is getting
who
weird.
who or what is creating these? I guess are there several entities?
The black holes, the Makos,
Yeah,
they're natural phenomenon. They're natural. I mean, to that degree. Now, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, my friend Tex, it would be amount of the question of who and what would be trying to weaponize these Makos and these, because Makos can be, you can have the large ones that we see in the universe, you know, holding space together, but you've got the other ones that are going to be micro that appear on this planet. And, you know, and also the sun is also a type of a portal. And the black spots you see on there, not just cold spots, they're more than that. You know, and if you look at, people can tie into what is the Soho website. And if you get on the Soho website, you actually go into the files, and it gets a little hard to figure it out, but you get in there, they show the sun. Actually, it takes a picture of the sun like every few minutes. And it's in different spectrums. You can look in the different nanospectrums and like isolate, like, you know, 5 minutes you want to observe the sun from 10 years ago. And people often will see ships going in and out of there, lights going in and out of there. Good on YouTube. People pick it up all the time. And it's a trip. What are those? You know what I mean? That's civilizations using the sun as a portal. We start talking about these other civilizations. So it comes to a point of where, like, who wants to weaponize the portals on Earth? The ones we hear about that people disappear in, missing 411. You know, who's trying to control those? You know, I am. Another thing, I'll bring up our friend again, Jessica, another blind target I gave her. I've given her many of them. It was the blind target was the weaponizing portals of Earth. And when I give her these numbers, she's coming up, she keeps talking about the sun. And the sun and this, and it took me a second, it completely pointed to civilizations trying to weaponize our sun. No way around it. I got more, put it to you like this, fellas. I got more than I chewed off more than I counted. I've been on board. I can chew a little bit. I didn't think I was going to get that type of a data out of it. You know what I mean? So that's just one of those things. And, you know, and in reality, you know, you start looking into what those people, these universities are saying, the quantum physicists, the astrophysicists, they're beyond saying, you know, do portals exist? They're trying to control them, trying to weaponize them, trying to use them. They're beyond, do they exist? Just like a certain portion of us are beyond, does Sasquatch exist? We're long beyond that. And we're trying to figure out what is the other part of DNA that gives them the special abilities. We want some. Just kidding.
Well, you know, Barry, this is really interesting because I don't know. I know Tex didn't see this because he's not on Facebook. I don't know if you saw this picture that was floating around on Facebook, Barry. Some dude, I don't know who he was, but he took a picture of the sun. And he's, you know, he didn't look directly into it. He just kind of lined it up and he fired off a bunch of random pictures at the sun. And then, you know, he said he had to kind of filter some things just to get it in focus. And then he posted these pictures on Facebook. And I got to tell you, when I was looking at these pictures, it was some of the oddest and strangest images. There was like cylindrical vacuums or like holes in the sun that were black, but it looked like it was an opening. There was like weird distorted faces and images about it. Now, again, like you say, you know, take it for what it is. This is what the guy claims he took the picture of, but it appeared to be, you know, the massive orange brightness of the sun. But in the pictures surrounding and inside the sun were like the strangest images. And one, Barry, kind of reminded me of a black hole inside of the sun. Now, the sun is nothing more than a black hole, right? A dead star. Correct?
What, the sun itself?
Yeah. Well,
No,
not the sun. Stars. Stars.
It's a dead star. It's dead star, black hole. Yeah, dead star
Yeah.
once it dies. Yeah.
Okay.
You know something. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh
yeah,
no, were you finishing that? So I didn't want to run.
I'm pretty done. No, I so I don't know if you've seen that because it was very. I don't want to use the word chilling to be all dramatic, but it was very interesting at the least. Now, I'll only bring this up because you just mentioned it, here on the show, and I remember seeing that on Facebook, and I thought it was really odd, very peculiar.
I know I get people get irritated because I like science, but I like to back up some of the things so that we need a foundation for backing some of this up. There's something everyone can look up concerning what you just said that are called electron diffusion regions. And what those are is actually the magnetic field of the sun and the magnetic field of the earth. The magnetic fields produced where they meet creates these portals, these doorways that open like every few minutes. They've scientifically documented this. So what you're looking at is a type of dimensional portal thing that's opening up right there between these magnetic fields. So when you have somebody that's taking pictures and what the camera may be picking up that's even connected to that is amazing to itself, So when we start dealing with these civilizations, like I said, that Michikako and all them talk about type 1, type 2, type 3, type 1, type 0, which we are right now, means we're using fossil fuels to destroy our biosphere as a main power source. Type 1 is when you start using the parent star for the main power source. So for advanced solar power for us, which we seem to not be taking on enough of right now. And then the next step, type 3, is they begin using space for the prime power source. And then type 4, they start using makos themselves and black holes themselves for power sources. So that, and that, up from there. But this is when taking that into, thought, into consideration, it gets pretty heavy. And especially the natural portals and whoever demonic forces are trying to control those and possess those and control the stars themselves and the portals of the star. That's kind of terrifying to a bit to me.
It is.
You guys are quiet. We could go back to cryptids. Maybe we'll talk about the Tepe or
I'm just thinking, man. No, I'm just thinking. I'm thinking it is terrifying because I'm going back to what I was talking about a little bit earlier. All of us were talking earlier. Is we just really don't know, do we? I mean, this is all fascinating stuff. Newer for me in Tex. Where again, Barry, that's why I love having you on. It just opens your mind to things that I've never explored before.
I'm always sticking my hand down the rabbit hole and get a trap sometimes. But when I was talking to the guy that I like so much and nobody seems to have met him, but Tom Powell. And we
Tom Powell, I was waiting for the Tom Powell. Yeah, I was waiting.
If I said it before, when he had mentioned the Sasquatch that they were trying to see that was like the 10 plus one, the alpha male that this tribe was interacting with. And when they went there, the tribe had said that they only saw the woman and the daughter. And so the guy he had that was capable of getting mind speak, I can't remember that guy's name, but he mentions him. But he does a mind speak on this, and the mother says, "Oh, my husband, he's gone. Basically, the green ones took him to work. We don't like them much because they put us to work, but he'll be back when the work is done." And then he just kind of just sits there. I was like, well, man, who the HE double hockey sticks are the green ones? And he's like, well, my friend Paul Eddies wouldn't say it publicly. He wouldn't say it publicly, but he says it's the reptilians. And that just kind of takes you on. You start thinking, I was like, well, Sasquatch goes back to when this would be a type 1 civilization. There were still galactic trades going on. It would have been a part of that. And we need to wake our eyes up to this modality that the ancient man was using these square wheels. Are you kidding me? There's a type 1 civilization here. There are remnants here that we still can't explain. So I mean, so these things need to be really taken into seriousness. And concerning Tom Powell and Pauletti's, Pauletti's is talking about him all the time now. I've seen him. He's even had him on a presentation. So they're definitely friends. I've not met these guys, but I know you all have. You two have. So that's cool.
So
I think.
the getting back to the green ones, we've seen this in the past several years that people are taking these images of what we believe to be Sasquatch, and they're green. Mainly face pictures that we're seeing. I've got two of them, and not that I took, but that people have shared with me. And there's human-like esque, I think, ish features to them, but they're 10 feet tall. They look more cartoonish than anything else, but they're green. And one of the better known ones, I think, is the one that Kerry Arnold took. He called it the Bruce Banner picture, and it looks like the Incredible Hulk sitting back there in the brush, but he's green. And I'm just wondering if that's what they're talking about. Are they
what?
Because we've had a discussion. Me and Carrie had a discussion about this, and it was like, because at the time we assumed these things were Sasquatch that him and these other people were catching. Brenda Hawkins out of North Carolina caught one. Great picture. I mean, you can see the cheekbones highlighted. The video, you can pan the video, and I slowed it down. The mouth actually, opens and closes. But the still I've got, I mean, it's just the very sharp nose. It's not the wide flared out nose or nothing like that, but it's like they're human-esque, but they're not human.
I think it comes back to those things I'd heard about, some of those supposed military reports that they were having Sasquatch blood that had chloroplast in it. Chlorophyll in it. Chlorophyll. And then also taking that and backing that up with that study, those hairs that had the translucent and also the chlorophyll type of tinge in it, which would be perfect to bend light, especially if you're already amongst foliage. On my YouTube channel a couple of years ago, if you go to playlist and go to the Sasquatch playlist, there's one on there called Sasquatch and the Green Man. I released some years ago. And what I was doing was correlating what we just said here with the chlorophyll and also that ability to camouflage in that way, transferring, kind of taking that and melding that with what in Europe they call the Green Man. And with all due respect, the Green Man kind of is like Swamp Thing in some ways. But I mean, but the Green Man being actually representing also this human genetic that they have as well. And how much the Sasquatch may actually be the Green Man, some type of them, the correlations. That's all. But I think that has a lot to do with what you're saying. I'm aware of some of those pictures you're talking about. I know who their names were that took them, but that's the first thing I thought. And, the next stage is to where they can do even more of the Predator type of thing, like the movies where they're bending light in that way. But, I mean, they've got the perfect hairs for it. And when you deal with something else, which is all the oil that they have, we know they got a bunch of oil on them. They live these handprints everywhere. So you got that type of oil on top of the chlorophyll and that type of translucent hair that gives them the ability to bend light and camouflage in a way that's almost, I mean, that's pretty cool if you ask me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
See, and that's the conversation. That's the conversation me and Carrie were having. What we were trying to figure out what makes them appear green. Because when you see them with a naked eye, or the ones that we've seen, they're black, brown, red, even blonde. I've never, that I can think of, I've never heard of anybody having a sighting and saying, "Oh, I saw this green Sasquatch run away."
Right.
I've never heard that. But you take these pictures that are when they're deep in this foliage, and they appear green. Well, and the faces that I'm talking about don't have any hair on
Mm.
them. And we were talking about, well, is it, there's several different possibilities that we were talking about. Is it the oil that reflects the color of the surrounding foliage? Or is it possibly something they're rubbing on their skin like face paint in order to camouflage? You know, or
I mean,
is it?
that would just be an additive.
Yeah.
That would just be an additive. Yeah, yeah. I think probably both.
And we go right back every time. We go right back to what are we dealing with?
I'm sorry, Tex. I had a backdoor delivery, so I missed. I know what you guys were talking about. It wasn't from Amazon. I had to sign for this thing. And you're talking about the green, talking about carrying the green, and I could be in the left field because I'm trying to piece this together. Do you think though we're talking about Florida? Were you talking about Florida specific, Tex?
Well, Carrie's picture came out of Florida.
Yeah.
Brenda's picture came out of North Carolina.
North Carolina. I was wondering. I had this thought too, you guys. And we talk about the translucent hair, the oil, the grease, what have you. Do you think though that some of these, like all animals, and I'll just use that, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, they're very conducive. They reflect their environments. I'm wondering if, like in a place like Florida, swamplands, green vegetation, hot, humid. Do you think that maybe some of Sasquatch are more like a chameleon and they are green in nature to blend in with the environment? You could say the same thing about the forests of North America, right? But Florida specific, do you think that might be just another species of a Sasquatch?
Well, and that's what me and Barry were talking about.
Okay.
When you hear about even your encounter, and when people talk about, well, they saw this thing run away, they saw this thing walk, or whatever.
Yeah.
You never hear anybody that I know of that said, "Oh, well, I saw a green Sasquatch walk away." It's always black, brown, red, that blonde, that kind of thing, even white. But where does this green come in? It seems to only show up when they're back in the trees, they're hiding in the foliage, and it takes on the color of the foliage.
Trees again, the trees, and them and trees fascinates me.
Yeah,
the more I look into it, the more it has for a few years now. When you hear about people saying that they hear when they seem to come out of these trees, like you just see their head, and all of a sudden they step out, and people hear the pow. It sounds like a wood knock.
right.
And that they're using these trees to actually manifest and unmanifest or to teleport, and that it drains the tree. They can only use the same tree once or twice where it drains it.
Well, it's like
and how often these knock people are hearing are them actually manifesting from trees.
Right.
That's fascinating.
Well,
sorry.
It's like the video that Amy and Laney took up in Brown Spring Cemetery. They're with the Paranormal. And I've got 2 stills from that video, and something, I don't know what it is, something black is it's manifesting, materializing, looks like out of a tree, and it solidifies into something. I call it the Java because that's what it looks like to me. It's only about 3 or 4 feet tall. And I mean, it starts out a black blob or a dark blob, and then materializes into something with shape. Looks like it's wearing a hood. It's got a little tail, and then walks off. So what is that? We got so much crap out there that we're dealing with. We don't know what's what anymore. Well, I don't think we ever will, to be honest with you. Because I don't know, is that a small Sasquatch? Is that one of the little people? Is it a puckwudgie? Hell, we don't know. Is it just a spirit?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's pretty hard to tell. The stuff I've heard about the little people are always weird too. I've heard consistent stuff about them. But a friend of mine that passed away, he's the first person to actually tell me about the little people. That's probably around 99 or so, and he's from the Oklahoma mountains, and he was a Chickasaw. And
Yeah.
he had said that he got in trouble because he talked to little people. And to why? He goes, well, because didn't known to steal children. And when I had him
Yeah.
describe them, he said that they were about right around just a little less than knee high. And as he described them, he said they had on very old Native American clothes. And he looked at me, he said, but Barry, they're wearing war paint. I said, war paint? He said, yes, they had a war paint.
You know, Barry, me and Tex had Robin Moonshadow on like 2 weeks ago on, I think it was this channel, I forget, of this show, I think. Robin Moonshadow, right, Tex? Talk about a lady that knows a lot about the little people. We talked about them, the puck wedgies. Fascinating woman. A lot of research in the subject. And go check her out. In fact, she was
What's
on
her
the
name
show.
again?
Robin Moonshadow. In fact, she was on this show, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, with me and Tex. So either brunch or beyond. I think it's probably brunch.
Hey, something I want to throw in there. I've been glancing over here at the comments, and I caught one. It's way gone now. It's moving pretty fast, but it was, I want to say, Penny Van or Van Penny Van.
Yeah.
They had said something about that they were starting to prescribe to the theory that this place is a laboratory and everything's been placed here. You know, very much so. You know, there's a big old thick book called the Uranta book. And I have it's the Uranta book, Urantia, and Uranta means earth, and it's a book. I don't have my copy in here, but it's about like that thick. All right, and the first half of it is especially interesting, but it talks a lot about the beings that came here, what we call ancient aliens now, but the beings that came here, where they're inhabited, and the genetic splices that they had going off that, all the way down to like something like Glebeke Tempe. If you want to go to my YouTube channel again and go into playlist, look at book reviews. I've done several book reviews over the Uranta book, and one of them is about Glebeke Tempe, how they describe things in that book that they're finding in the Glebeke right now, and other things they say in there concerning, you know, those different types of beings that have been here that are actually coming from other places in this Milky Way galaxy. It's quite interesting. So check that out. They talk about, you know, how certain lines are spread off. So check out the videos on my YouTube channel that are Glebeke Tempe and the Uranta book, and also Adam and Eve and the Uranta book. That one's very interesting. What they said about actually Adam and Eve and them being biological uplifters that were sent here at a certain period, and how you can actually look at some of the Sumerian text and see some things that they're saying about Enki that appears to be Adam. Okay, what they said there. And when I say that, they talk about in that book that Adam and Eve were what they call material sons of God, material sons of God that come from a planet that is close to galactic center. And there are two of them dispatched to planets when they become a certain level of evolution. And they're biological uplifters, and they have to do all this study of the place before they incarnate and when they get here too. And if you look at the Sumerian text, you got pictures of Enki, what appears to be up there going through this process of being taught. And also there are other ones that have him with this like waterfall coming off of him and these fish all in it. A lot of people will say what that is. I think that's showing he's the god of sperm.
Yeah.
Exactly what they're talking about, biological uplifter. Then they start talking about the fall of Adam and Eve and the rebellion and how they actually lost this germplasm, and Adam was brought like so many women to actually impregnate, trying to keep this germplasm going. And the Sumerian text, you have Enki being presented a woman by one of these other giants holding this woman, and then you've got in the back what looks like a guy behind on this machinery. Straight up. I got that on my video. Check that out. I mean,
I will.
So I don't put 100% in stock with the Uranta book. I have a big problem with the skewed racial section in there, completely skewed. But it's been put that way to stop somebody like me from reading it.
Right.
I read that thing in high school.
Really?
I got so turned off by the racial skewness of it that it was hard to deal with. But outside of that part of the book, you know, the first part of it is very interesting when it talks about universal structure, angelic structure, the angelic structure on Earth, and the history of Earth. It's quite interesting, and some of these things are coming up right now. They'll tell you who was in Göbekli Tepe, what germplasm they had. That go through all that stuff. It's very interesting, you know.
Really quickly, to everybody subscribe to Barry Littleton on YouTube. The link has been plastered out there. Thanks to Lily Pond, all the
Thank
mods.
you. Thank you.
Kenny Band says, Barry, not exactly what I meant, but close. And she says, I just think all these beings were here and always have been, and humans were brought here. I like that. It's again, Penny always comes up with cool ideas, and I thought about that myself.
It's a little more than that, honestly, but that's cool. You can go with that.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than that, though, what I'm talking about, but that's cool. You
Yep.
can stick with that.
But yeah, very good. Thanks for that. Thank you to Aussie Sue for another super chat.
Aussie Sue.
Appreciate
What's
that.
up, Sue? Good people.
I guess where I have a problem is, and like so many people, it doesn't meet my narrative, I guess you could say. Everything, pretty much everything we've been talking about, in my simple mind, and I do have a simple mind, goes against my Christian beliefs. But I don't think, one, I really don't care who you are. You can claim to understand everything that's in the Bible, but I don't think you do. I think, I don't think we do. I don't think we meant to. Because it can be interpreted in so many different ways and twisted to fit so many different narratives. It's like any other holy book out there, you know. But there's so many mysteries in the Bible, you know, and we're trying to fill in those blanks. You know, it's like, I mean, we can't even agree on how old the Earth actually is. You know, so
you know.
Talking about oh, go ahead, Barry.
Yes, two things. I'm with you on that. One thing, Penny, thanks for putting that up. I didn't mean that bad at all. And it's simple. I appreciate that. I didn't mean that statement bad at all. I know where you're coming from 100%. So I don't want to seem like I was being arrogant or something. But concerning the Bible, okay, regardless, I have no religion, okay, but the one thing about that book is that it can teach you how to live, especially if you're somebody that doesn't have the general intuition and knowledge to not screw your fellow human over, you know. But when in dealing with what we're talking about here, something very interesting would be, one is the revelations. I think we can see things that correlate to what we're talking about, paranormal, cryptid, all this stuff is in there. Mm-hmm. The beast they're talking about coming up, and all these things are in that part of the book that we're enduring now. I think it's pretty hard to get away from that. Something else, you know, that would be, and it's pretty cool because I did a video a while ago about something that I've heard Randall Carlson talk about for years. He was talking about how the Ice Age ended. And you had actually these three that struck, these three meteors that came from the Tarid meteor shower that hit, one on the Green Bay ice shelf, another one in Lake Huron, and another one in Lake, oh God, I can't think of that name of that, but it's right there too by the Great Lakes. And it's those three and how that actually started the end of the Ice Age. All right, like caused like a 60 feet rise in sea level overnight, then like over a month or a year, like hundreds of feet, you know. Mm-hmm. And he told me that actually that he thought there were 18 strikes in 1,000-year span when I met him in person a couple weeks ago in Vegas. So when dealing with something like Noah's flood, that proves it. Because the one thing people say, oh, the flood, that's not real. Prove it. Where's the hole? Where's the hole? Where they found them with satellites now. So that proves some things there. We can't dismiss everything. And I found a lot of these books that are called quote unquote holy. You have the ability to really pray and meditate and open the book up for your question, and it's the answers there. Yeah. These ones they call holy texts. It's interesting how it works like that. Other books don't.
Right.
Just saying, food for thought. You know, again.
Yeah.
Can only speak from my personal experience, but Sorry if I cut you off, Tex, but I just felt where you were going.
No.
And even too, Barry, though, if you read the holy book, the
See, Rob
Bible,
cuts me off too, so you don't have to worry about it.
go ahead. Go. You know what? I just want a quick statement. Everybody interprets the holy books differently, right? 10 people can read 500 pages, and they all get together, and if you have them give an essay on it, every interpretation will be different, like night and day, right?
Hmm?
And Tex, I'm sorry, you were going to say, or did you forget?
I'm just giving
Tex is getting kicked around over here. We're going to cut him off, man. Sorry, man.
You know, Barry, you know, we could always talk. I have the best time when Barry comes on. I learned something.
Well, it's good. It's good topic, and I think it's good that it's not nothing you guys don't want to talk about. Just cookie cutter stuff. It's not always Dogman. It's not always Sasquatch. There are other stuff in there because you got a brilliant audience out here. You know what I mean?
Well,
so it's
and
cool.
again, though, I know you follow our channels. We expand. I mean, we used to be the all cryptid show, but now we do take on these subjects because, to expand our shows, the front porch, BMR, the blondes, it just can't be the same topic each and every week because there's something, and we always say this, everything is related in some way. I don't care if you're talking about the galaxy, the universe, cryptids, strange phenomenon. It's all kind of linked somewhere down the road. Life after death.
Lily Pond just triggered my memory. Thank you, Lily Pond. The other one is Saginaw Bay. That's the other one, the third strike. Yeah, the Saginaw Bay, Lake Huron, and the Green Bay ice shelf are the threes that they said that's just ended the ice age. Not all the strikes, but that's just the one that was that little specific deal that connects to Noah's flood. Sorry, thank you for that, Lily Bonner. I would never got the name. You just seeing it is hard. I don't know how to spell Saginaw Bay.
Well, we can do a whole show on the Great Lakes. I mean, Tex and I were talking about this the other day on a show. And ironically, Tex, you know how AI is now? So guess what? So me and Tex are talking about the Great Lakes and the history. And do you know what happened to me, Tex? The next morning, I go on my phone, and I got on my phone on Google about 100 pages worth of Great Lakes historic data. Tex, I tell you, they're listening. And there's a lot of things that I found that I did not know about, Like they say the Lake Superior is not a lake, it's an inland sea. And Presque Isle is a lake on a lake within a lake. And that you could fit every Great Lake inside of Lake Superior and Lake Erie 3 times. Wow. If Lake Erie, there's enough water in Lake Superior, everybody, we're getting to the end of it, I know. There's enough water. There's a quadrillion ton gallonage of water in Lake Superior, where if there's enough water in Lake Superior, they can cover North America and South America 1 foot deep. I never would have thought that.
Wow.
That's food for thought on that one, Barry. What if that thing what if that thing had a little mini tsunami? My state would be wiped out.
Well, you remember that guy, Gordon Michael Scallion? He was around more so in the early 90s and late 90s and maybe in the 2000s a little, but he made a map. He kept seeing all these horrible earthquake cataclysms. And his first few predictions came true, and everybody's tripped out. And he kept seeing like the Mississippi flowing completely over Florida and all this other stuff. I think it's still on the internet. His Gordon Michael Scallion, Scallion's future map. Check it out. It's interesting. Not, I personally get those things to stress me out a little bit, but hey, it is what it is. I hope we go on the other timeline where there's not a huge meteor that hits us, or there's not this big flood, or or there's not the alien invasion or any of this crap. Maybe we could have this utopia thing go down.
Yeah,
the Vulcans come and like Star Trek First Contact. The Vulcans came and everything was good after that.
Hey Barry, it's kind of like me, man. I always watch these these movies that are terrifying, where a meteor hits the ocean. We've all seen them, where the big tidal wave comes in, or there's a blast from an earthquake in the ocean, and you have all these monsoons, and you have all these. Yeah, they put them out there, yet we watch them, right? Then we turn them off. But
hey, what if unrefined oil is sentient? Food for thought again. And what if it is actually not that it's formed the way we think, and it's more like it's trapped under the ground? And when you see something like that oil spill that happened with that tanker years and years ago, remember what that looked like when it's hitting? Because oil has that big problem with water. Like 1 quart would contaminate like 50,000 gallons of drinking water or something. So I mean, it's against and water is the main primary ingredient on this planet, but oil is a huge problem with it. It's like a battle of it. How did that oil get trapped under there like that?
Oh wow!
And when it's unrefined, and when you see that thing the way it was oozing out, did not look like it was almost alive and angry. And it would be technically imprisoned. It produces energy. It'd be enslaved technically. A species sentient that would be enslaved. Again, I'm not saying that's correct, but it's food for thought when people talk about the black goo and all that stuff. This is something more simpler than we're aware of.
Yeah. Did you just say the black dude? We gotta have the black dude, man. Okay, I'm not
GOO, man. Come on, homie. Come on, homie.
Yeah. Come on, my brother. I'm like, okay, damn, Barry. I love you anyways, man. And, it's always great because I consider you a friend. I know Tex does as well. It's always great, man. Come on the show.
Thank you for having me on.
I'm sure we'll have you back. You seem to make an appearance every couple months, so which is always cool. The people are. I know that our audience loves you, and I love you as well. And I do thank you.
Hey, great audience too. I mean, I couldn't keep up with the chat; it's moving so fast. But a lot of brilliant people saying brilliant stuff. That's really cool.
We do have not only do we have the best chatters, but they are very up to speed. They're smart people. They really are, which really helps the show out, because what I like about our chats versus some other channels, our people they actually watch and listen and they communicate what's going on in the show. They don't sit around and talk about their tea party that they had yesterday, which has nothing to do with the show. So that's why I love you guys in chat. Thank you for your participation.
Right there. Moon at Noon. That creature was called Armis on Star Trek. The Skin of Evil. That was a great episode too. Picard really did that thing in. That was great.
And we're coming up to the close. And before I end it, I have to thank Ozzy Sue twice, TF, for your awesome super chats. I gotta thank Be Kind for gifting 5 BMR Pirates. I don't know who the 5 new gifted people are, but you got a month free on BMR. Letitia for joining, and Spiritual Odyssey for joining as well. So pretty nice day. I do appreciate that. That has helped what we do around here. I do appreciate that immensely. Barry, where can people find you?
I'm on YouTube, Barry Littleton. Also on Patreon, Barry Littleton. I do some stuff on Facebook, Barry Littleton. My website's barrylittleton.com. I don't do much on there, but there are links on there to the other stuff like YouTube. YouTube is a good place. I do a lot of stuff on there. So
very good. Tex, any final thoughts?
I just want to remind everybody about the Alabama Bigfoot Conference coming up in June. Yep, that's the one. Tickets are on sale, $30 right now, $35 at the door. We are having a meet and greet the night before the conference, and we're doing it a little bit different. It's just going to cost you the cost of a meal, but you need to RSVP because we're only going to have so much room. We're not charging you to come eat with the speakers. We're just, y'all come and join us. So, but you do need to RSVP. So
is Tom Powell going to be there?
Well, Barry, just send me his phone number for God's sakes.
I don't have it anymore.
Well, I wonder why, Barry.
Barry's the reason he changed it. Is what.
No, I lost my phone. My phone blew up. That phone.
Now this isn't. Now we're not talking about colon, Paul, are we?
Oh my god! Oh,
Yeah, boy.
You cut the air off of this, man. You
Yeah.
bleep this part, man. Cut this part out.
Yeah. We're gonna get the hell out of here. Thanks for the super chats, super stickers. The new BMR pirates are. Subscribe to Texas Front Porch, BMR, the Blondes, the Booze, Barry Littleton. I tell you, if there's not a channel, don't subscribe to me or Tex. Subscribe to Barry because, as he says, every video is food for thought. And on that,
Thanks.
we're out of here.